We are live. I will announce that this is the Town of Ayer Executive Buy Board meeting for Thursday, May 14th, 2020 at 2 p.m. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, Governor Baker issued an emergency order temporarily suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Public bodies otherwise governed by the open meeting law are temporarily relieved from the requirement that meetings be held in public places, open and physically accessible to the public, so long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the body's deliberations through adequate alternative means. And this meeting is in accordance with that and is being live streamed and conducted through a Zoom meeting. Again, this is the Executive Buy Board meeting, and for the public record, the members of the Buy Board are Selectman Scott Hood, Patrick Diamond, the chair of the FinCom, Mr. Mark Smith, the vice chair of the Ayer FinCom, Lisa Gabri, the finance manager, Barbara Tierney, the treasurer tax collector, Carly Antonellis, the assistant town manager, and myself, Robert Pomperian, the town manager. And I think we have everybody on the call. So welcome, everyone.
Hello, Robert.
All right, great.
And everybody else. Hope we're all healthy.
Yes, yes. So does everybody should have the posted agenda. And if there is an objection, I know it's a little bit different, I'll sort of facilitate the meeting, deferring to Selectman Hood, who is the chair. Just some of the particulars. We'll go right down the items on the agenda. Does that sound good?
That sounds perfect. I'll turn it over to you, Robert.
I couldn't agree more.
Thank you, Selectman Hood. The only other thing for everybody's benefit, out of an abundance of security using Zoom, periodically right now, what I'm looking at, it's just the Buy Board. Kevin Johnson is on the call, Cindy and APAC. As folks come in, I will ask them if it's just by phone number, just to identify themselves moving forward. So bear with us, but I think we're ready to go. So following the agenda, the first item was the approval of the meeting minutes. We last met on February 3rd, which was the ClearGov meeting. And I apologize if there is an objection, if we could just defer the approval of those minutes so I can get them typed up to everybody.
That's fine with me.
I accept the minutes as they will be typed.
Okay. So we'll get right into it. So the first item is just a general overview discussion of the town's finances in the COVID-19 pandemic. And again, it's good to see everybody. I know it's been a while since we met, and I'm pleased to report as we move through the COVID-19 pandemic, the town of Ayer, from a financial point of view, still remains in a very strong position. However, I think we can all agree there's no question, and I'll only use unprecedented a couple times on this call, this unprecedented pandemic, there is no question there are going to be financial and economic impacts that the town will experience. I think the governing question is when and how as we move forward. As we stand here sit here on May 14th, we remain in a pretty strong position. And as we move through the meeting, I'll have others speak to the issues of taxes coming in, revenues, and so forth. The FY20 budget, as everybody knows, is funded and is in place. And we're going to talk about the FY21 budget in town meeting later. I just want to point out, and this is a testament to everybody's hard work, and this is why we do it. As we move through this, we have conservatively approximately $8.5 million in various reserve resources for the town to consider. And we're not at that point yet. There's at least 1.5 million in excise levy capacity. There's approximately 2 million in regular stabilization, another 2 million in capital stabilization. We're going to talk about a proposal I'm going to discuss with the Board of Selectmen regarding free cash. but we have approximately 1.5 million in free cash. We have another approximately 1.5 million in unrestricted UDAG funds. So there are a lot of reserves, and we take those reserves very serious. We're not at a point of accessing any of them, but I just want to point out, thanks to all of the work over the years, we are in a strong position. Many of our sister towns are not in that position. Additionally, Lisa has noticed as we move through COVID-19, there's actually been a decrease in overtime across the board. That generally is always a budget driver. There's been a decrease in overtime. I may have her speak to that after. There's approximately to date $18,000 in unforeseen COVID-19 related expenses. We've been tracking that. At right now, there's about 18,000 to date. We anticipate if that trend continues, it could be around 35,000 by the end of the fiscal year. We also have received strong indicators from the MMA as well as from FEMA and MEMA that ultimately up to 75% of those costs are reimbursable. But as everybody can appreciate, reimbursements can take sometimes up to 24 months, but we continue to track all of the COVID expenses. And as said, to date, it's approximately $18,000 to date. Additionally, we are tracking all of the COVID-19 personnel costs as well. As you know, with the governor's state of emergency and other orders, some non-essential personnel had to go out on COVID-19 admin time. That's all being tracked, also with hopes of some reimbursement moving forward. On April 24th, I issued a spending guidance memo to all departments that any spending over the amount of $1,000 is subject to pre-approval, as well as all contracts. This is standard operating, but a reminder that all contracts are subject to verification of available funds and funding sources from the finance managers. So we have people being cautious in thinking about the issues of spending moving forward. I also want to just point out on the issue of the overall discussion of town finances. I don't know if Lisa or Barbara, the internal finance group, realizes the importance as we move through COVID-19 that we develop a system where we're recording monthly and reporting to the FinCom and the BOS, and it is public record monthly, the status of revenues and spending. So I don't know if Lisa or Barbara, through the chair, want to touch upon the plan on that.
Well, I think
So I did run a collection report just before this meeting after doing today's processing.
Mhm.
And right now we are 94.2% fully collected for fiscal 20 for real estate. We are at 83.19% for personal property for the full year and 70.74% for motor vehicle. And I can send this report out after, but for 2019, real estate was 97.57%. So it's only about a 3% difference. And I am lagging with processing. I do have more items right here in the office today and some lock boxes. So at least part of that 3% is because of the skeleton crew, and I am a little behind in processing. But personal property, I'm sorry?
we haven't finished the fiscal year either, so we have.
We haven't, yeah. So I ran the report through May 14th to May 14th.
Mhm.
So it doesn't include anything, and then personal property, last year we were at 99% versus the 83%. And then motor vehicle was at 83%. So it's not a huge difference. And I'll send this along after. And again, I have quite a bit in the office that I'm still working on processing.
Okay, and if you could send that report, Barbara, to
Yeah.
everybody after, that'd be great. Lisa.
I just add to that I ran an overall revenue report
Oh, good.
as of today, and we're at 95% as of May 11th. So that's overall, that means not just taxes, but fees and permits, all that, miscellaneous income, investment earnings. So we're ahead of the game actually at this point, because we budget conservatively and we're almost to the end of our fiscal year. So.
Yep, and I agree. The way we did things here in Ayer was a little different than some of the surrounding towns, but it worked out for our benefit.
Can I ask a question, if I may, just Pat?
Yep.
Lisa, given that we budgeted with a built-in overage, not a whole lot, but we built it in, and given the percentage of collections and expenditures that we've achieved at this point, it almost sounds like we could cruise through this particular budget year and not have any unanticipated overage to the scheduled budget. We may have a reduction in free cash at the end of it, but it sounds like we're going to come out the other end pretty much square.
We're gonna be positive cash. How much, I don't know yet, because there's still, a month and a half to go, and there is something that happens. But our expense budget for general fund is running about 5% under budget overall. Some departments, some appropriations, such as town council and the police department, are running well under budget. So I anticipate free cash this year is not going to be a problem, even if we had to absorb the $18,000 in excess costs that due to COVID. But we're certainly going to apply for. We've already started the process, FEMA money, to help offset some of that 18 grand or whatever it happens to be by the end of the fiscal year.
Well, that certainly speaks to a strong fiscal management plan, and I congratulate you guys for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's talk the fourth item on the agenda, sort of the FY21 budget update, and specifically discussion on a proposed plan for the annual town meeting. So a couple of things. Obviously, at this time, we're cautiously optimistic that town meeting is scheduled for June 15th at 7 p.m. I will be reporting to the Board of Selectmen and discussing with the board on Tuesday, the 19th. We were up at the school on Monday in the facilities department, and Miss Antonellis, we're putting together the social distancing protocols to make the town meeting safe and possible. So on the 19th, we're going to be presenting a formal plan for discussion with the Board of Selectmen. I'll also be contacting the town moderator to discuss with him. However, there's still a lot of variables here. We're cautiously optimistic that it'll be June 15th. However, some things need to still change. Not one town in Massachusetts has had a town meeting to date. All of them have been moved to June, and it's going to be interesting as we move forward what's going to happen. Just for everybody's benefit, because the question comes up, what happens if we can't have the town meeting on June 15th? Probably within a week of June 15th, the moderator, in consultation with the Board of Selectmen and the town clerk, will make a determination. The moderator can determine that an emergency exists, that the meeting can't happen, and we have to post that. He has to pick a date within 30 days of June 15th, so no later than July 15th. He has to pick an actual date and time, and we also have to report that to the state. We're not there yet, but just so folks understand how the procedure will work. And we'll talk in a minute about what will happen on another agenda item if we don't have a budget approved by town meeting on July 1st. But as we go into, let's assume that town meeting is going to happen on June 15th. The internal finance team has been meeting, and I'm going to present this to the Board of Selectmen, but we value all of your input. We're going to discuss this on the 19th with the board. The following plan. We've looked at the FY21 budget and the warrant as put together, I want to thank everybody. We were in awesome shape before COVID-19. I think it was a strong budget, a strong town meeting warrant, and it still is. What we're proposing at this time is Ms. Gabri has calculated, we know that the FY21 local aid is approximately $995,000 for FY21. So that's what we expected in terms of local aid for FY21, $995,000. We're hearing, and this is all preliminary, nothing formal, we're hearing anywhere from a shortfall of $5 to $7 billion in state revenue. And so state revenue come for next year and for the fall is definitely going to be an issue. The good news is we are only reliant on, and I don't want to say only, but $995,000 for FY21. What we're going to propose, if you look in the warrant, to prepare for an impact to local aid, there are 3 articles that we're going to discuss that we believe should be deferred at this time. And when I say deferred, the action would be to defer them to the fall town meeting. The first one is Article 14, which is the UDAG replenishment. This article replenishes from free cash funding for UDAG expenditures. In Article 14, this is the second year, it's $230,000 for the Worthingdale eminent domain lawsuit. Again, we're proposing deferring that to the fall. That would free up potentially $230,000. The next one would be Article 25, which we've had a lot of debate on because pre-COVID-19, and I think this is still a very good idea. Article 25 was the forward funding of the town's pension assessment in the amount of $300,000. And we made presentations both to the BOS and to the FinCom. And if we weren't in this COVID-19 situation, and we've hemmed and hawed, there was a lot of debate on this and we can discuss, but at this time we're recommending deferring that and discussing that with the board on the 19th. That would free up $300,000. The last one is actually Article 26, the stabilization article. Of course, in normal circumstances, and we have a great track record with this, you continue to put funding into your savings, into stabilization, preparing for a rainy day. Well, we're in the midst of COVID-19 now. At this time, Article 26 looks to put a total of $949,139 free cash into stabilization. And it's broken up to $9,139 in regular stabilization and $940,000 in capital stabilization. We're recommending we defer on that to the fall town meeting. And so if you add up those 3 articles, deferring that totals $1,479,139. So by doing that, and so we'll be in a better position in the fall, we can absorb, if there's a huge hit to the $995,000 from local aid, we can absorb that. Plus it gives us a little bit more room as we move forward on that. Again, all 3 of those would be deferred to the fall when we can reassess. The other thing I just want to point out on stabilization, so it can be revisited. In normal times, when town meeting approves the stabilization at the annual town meeting, the transfer of that funding doesn't happen until usually the following December anyhow. So on best case scenario, if we defer all 3 of these to the fall, best case scenario, we'll be in a position that we could present them to town meeting to approve and move forward. More realistically, it will give us a cushion and we can adjust. In worst case scenario, as we monitor this, if further adjustments need to be made to the budget, they can be done in the fall.
Can I just add?
Yes,
something?
Lisa.
We just need to have a little history about how our revenues might be impacted over the next few months. So my feeling is that if we continue to monitor the revenues through the summer until, say, the beginning of September, at least we'll have some history of how we're being impacted, and maybe we'll know better how to adjust the estimated revenues for FY21. And then we can make whatever changes we need to at the fall town meeting. And we will have that 1.5 million for some flexibility. in the budget.
This is Scott. I agree. I with deferring those three articles to the fall. The one follow-up question I have, though, is in light of the impact that the initial town response to the COVID-19 and some of the expenses, I know we mentioned the potentially 35,000 by the end of the fiscal year. Are there any other expenses in the second half of the year that you would see or anticipate having to look at making that we should add to our operating budget? Just kind of thinking they're still talking about potential of a second wave of the virus coming in the fall or in the winter. So there are additional expenses potential for that we should really take into account.
Excellent point. This is Robert. Excellent point. Agreed. One of the things we're talking about, for example, as we move forward in the COVID-19 world, issues of ongoing personal protection equipment. Right now, developing, there'll be additional costs on that. We've also asked the facilities department is going to be, and I will share this with the BOS and the FinCom. By next Friday, May 22nd, I've asked the facilities department to meet with all department heads that have off-site locations to put together a preliminary report on any building modifications that need to be done to the best of the knowledge we have to prepare, for ultimately potentially a public opening. So we don't anticipate significant costs there, but I think to your point, Selectman Hood, that's definitely something we need to continue to discuss and to plan for is additional costs in the second, if there's a second wave or in the second part of the year. I also want to, for the benefit of this call and meeting, and this has come up, and it's a very sensitive issue and we take it very serious, but we are actively monitoring and working on and looking at the issues of personnel and personnel costs in the COVID-19 world. And we're fortunate in the sense that we're pretty much funded through June 30th. However, come July 1st, as the current trend continues, there are going to need to be considerations and adjustments made, and we will be consulting with our proposals with the BUY board, the Board of Selectmen, and the FinCom. And as anybody can appreciate, there are all kinds of considerations in there, but we're well aware that very shortly additional adjustments are going to have to be made. And some of those adjustments will most likely begin to be made shortly after July 1st over the summer.
And I wonder if it's possible to establish an emergency COVID-19 fund and actually put some capital in it in the event that we need to use it, we have it. And I think that the community would be quite pleased to know that we've taken that step. I don't know if there's any regulations against it, Lisa. I don't know. I'm just wondering. It just seems like something that would be worth doing for two reasons. One is because we might need it. And the other one is so that the community knows that the town is anticipating. We can always withdraw it if it's unused. So I just wonder if there's some mechanism where we could do that.
You go ahead, Lisa.
I will find out what DOR if we can specifically set up an account like that, but don't forget we have stabilization. We can absolutely, that's what it's for, emergencies. Stabilization is for emergencies or unforeseen or unexpected expenses. And we also won't be using $1.5 million of free cash, so we'll have that available as well. And in addition to that, the state just released, and I received this through Robert, I think it was the MMA,
Yeah.
that this town will be eligible for CARES Act funding through the state for for this year in FY21 for up to almost $720,000. So I mean, barring some, I don't know, catastrophe that's local, it doesn't seem to be a problem so far. I think we're in a very good financial position to weather, especially with these federal funds also, to weather all of this, hopefully.
And the reserve fund too.
And we also,
But Pat,
So the Department of Revenue would not have issues with us using the existing funds to deal with this emergency situation as necessary.
stabilization has to be a 2/3 vote. So you have to have a town meeting for that.
Yeah,
and
Follow-up question, in the event that we do need to tap stabilization in the fall and we're unable to have a town meeting for whatever reason, such as the one we're in right now, UDAG, would UDAG be our only option at that point? Or is there a workaround around tapping stabilization if town meeting's unable to meet?
Depending on the nature of the expense, if it's an expense that's directly related to COVID, then I'm separately tracking that and asking for reimbursement. And actually, this paperwork suggests that we could get money ahead of time and track it through the state and track it. And then if we ask for too much, they just want us to pay it back. So we can estimate our costs, which is awesome, actually.
Selectman Hood, to your point, which is a very good one, and it's one of the challenges we have with the town meeting form of government in the COVID-19 world, is I see what you're saying is that as everybody knows, it takes an active town meeting to activate the stabilization. But what happens if we're in this position in the fall that you can't have a town meeting to activate it? And I think we need to factor that in, Scott, to our plan moving forward and see what our options are. Because it'll be a good segue in a moment after a couple more questions about also even this year, what will happen if we can't have a town meeting from July 1st. And this is an active discussion amongst not just my colleagues in the Massachusetts Municipal Association, but our town council and the state. Is town meeting is such a social event and a specific event, and now in COVID-19, town meeting is required, but if you can't have it, there is no clear alternative at this time. But I think we need to continue to work on that plan. And I agree. What happens if we're in a situation, the fall town meeting's usually the 4th Monday in October, and we need to activate access or have town meeting vote on potentially stabilization and we can't have it? What's the contingency plan? So I think that's definitely a topic for active and ongoing planning for this group.
In addition to that, just like the pig farm, we can get permission from DOR to do emergency spending.
Yeah.
And if we have to, we raise it on a future recap sheet. So there are other options, I think, available besides stabilization.
okay, that's good.
And into that point that Lisa brought up, and we did this when we resolved the McNiff Farm issue, is on Tuesday, I'm going to be requesting and discussing with the Board of Selectmen, and there'll be materials in the packet on the agenda. We are going to be asking the Board of Selectmen to authorize us to do emergency spending up to the limit of, for now, up to $100,000 if needed. And the reason for our recommendation, we're not quite there yet, but we know that by the end of June, if the current trend continues conservatively, it will be about 35,000. But also to be prepared in the event that there needs to be emergency spending, we think a limit of 100,000, getting that authorization from the Director of Accounts is being proactive. And again, we'll be looking, the Board of Selectmen will have to authorize that. So we will have material in the public packet, and we'll be discussing with the board on the 19th, that proposal as well.
Have we ever thought about buying enough Tyvek suits to have a town meeting anyway?
We can't even find the Tyvek suits, Pat. Oh, we
I
would.
I know where to get them.
We're
Okay.
gonna wrap ourselves in saran wrap
Yeah.
before you go in.
Yeah, and again, for those tune in on the 19th, we're going to start the discussion of the plan with the board, the plan for the town meeting. I think real quick, the next item, which was an overview discussion of the potential 1/12 budget scenario in the event that town meeting cannot occur prior to July 1. So the state legislature back in April, as part of the emergency COVID legislation, has enabled towns, in the event that you cannot have a town meeting by July 1st, the cities have used this system prior. If you don't have a approved balanced budget by July 1st, you go into what's called a 1/12 budget. And we had hoped, and there's a lot of work being done on this, our town council, if you go to the KP Law website, has been sort of a leader across the state because they have so many towns as clients with various COVID-19 guidance. They are actively working on one for 1/12 budgets. We had hoped they would have it done for this meeting, not just because of us, but so we could look at it. Once we get that, we'll send that. But what that means is, so if the town meeting has not approved the budget, on July 1st, we go into what's called a 1/12 budget. I'm just briefly giving you the devil's in the details, but just the conceptual overview. So what that means is that on July 1st, the town is only authorized to spend funds for operating purposes. So all capital has not been approved by town meeting. There are no expenditures or appropriations for capital. So capital is going to be on a hold. We've informally started talking to all departments to prepare for that. We will issue a formal memo to all departments that without town meeting approval, no capital can move forward. So we're just talking operating. And the Department of Revenue sets your operating parameters for the previous Julys, because that was the last month that there's an approved budget. So the FY20 budget for July. So what we spent in operating for July 1 through July 31st of 2019 is the spending limit for the town. Meanwhile, the town is obligated and required to actively try to get the budget through town meeting. So that's, of course, an issue of scheduling and whether COVID-19 permits that. And we are required monthly to submit to the Department of Revenue that certified budget on a 1/12 basis. Now, there will probably be, and that's what we're waiting on the guidance for, because towns have not been able to do this previously. It was an issue reserved for the cities. We'll have some additional guidance. So we're preparing a plan for that, because one of the challenges that Lisa and the town will have is you get in a scenario where there could potentially be a lot of retros, if you will, as well, because, you know, contractual items have not been approved by town meeting. So things are frozen, if you will, and we'll have to move in that direction. And a lot of people are just concerned about that because it's not an ideal situation, but it's at this time potentially what's could happen. Do you want to add
It
anything?
seems to me that the biggest impact to that initially
Yeah.
would be the differences in the union contracts that will be in operation on the July 2020 versus those that were in 2019. And how do you make up for the difference unless you put it into a forward savings account that would be paid back? And I mean, that seems to me to be the biggest bugaboo in the whole thing, is any new labor agreements that are substantially different in material cost or process from what existed in 2019.
So for example, what will happen we're scheduled, if you will, Article 3, I believe, of the town meeting, just to use it as an example. Article 3 town meeting authorizes the funding for the town hall clerical union. I'm just using this as a real example.
Sure.
Because town meeting hasn't acted on that, when we get to July 1st, if you will, the funding isn't in place. So to your point, Pat, that's frozen. And it does create labor relations issues, which the administration will deal with. And we can't, forward fund this. So we're in a situation where things are frozen.
I'm just gonna add to what Robbie says. I don't agree with everything he said so far, but all wages will be frozen.
Right, all wages.
All wages, whether they are in the middle of in the beginning of a contract or in the middle of a
Yeah.
contract. It's
Okay.
frozen.
And non-union.
And non-union, all wages.
Okay,
So-
yeah, so that would be, would you have to hold the difference in wages in like an escrow account to
Well,
be
there-
funded afterwards, or that would be messy as all get out.
We'll have to do retros if and when the budget, hopefully
Right.
when the budget.
Hopefully we don't have to do that.
Right. And
Okay,
not to
thank
get-
you.
Right, and not to get way off, and we're not there yet. Two other pieces, we're not at a point yet. Some towns that are in dire financial situation before COVID-19 are talking with collective bargaining groups about freezing increases and so forth. We're not quite there yet, but there's, as you can see, the 1/12 budget scenario would be brand new territory for the town and is not as easy as it sounds, largely because all of the personnel stuff, union and non-union,
Oh, yeah.
frozen.
You'd almost have to keep two sets of books, one from previous and one from current, and find some way to meld them.
Lisa,
So,
to the
yeah,
challenge.
Lisa, you're up to it.
I'm at retro.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Again, once we get the guidance from not only our council, but DOR is working on this. It'll be formal guidance. We'll get that to all of you. And we should probably, this will be a future discussion, not only for the buy board, but FinCom and the BOS. Any other questions on 112 before we move down the line? So the next item, and we sort of touched upon some of it, and again, want to get any other thoughts or suggestions, and we're open to, is again, the proposed plan to monitor the revenues and spending. And I concur with Lisa that what we really want to do is develop quickly some meaningful history by, say, September 1st, to begin to get a clear picture of the impacts based on what we know today of the revenues. And we're very cognizant of the importance of spending. And that's why I issued that spending guidance on April 24th. We also, other tools at our disposal is a spending freeze, which may have to come into play, especially for July 1st as we move forward. And I also want to point out that if we have the town meeting, and because town meeting has approved a certain item, if you will, a capital item, for example, just because it's been approved, the funding has been approved, but because we are in unprecedented emergency situations, on recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, and we would communicate to the public, doesn't mean we have to spend or do that capital either. So I'm just putting that out there. Town meeting, we always want to implement the wills of town meeting, but if we're in a situation where we have to wait on a piece of capital or something, then that would be the recommendation, and we should move in that direction. Does Barbara or Lisa, do you want to add? And then if there's any other questions or thoughts on this topic of sort of monitoring our revenues and spending, and we definitely want to have this communicated monthly to everybody.
The only issue might be that I know that the treasurer tax collector's office, Barbara's office, is struggling to keep current on those revenues. So as long as Barbara feels like her department is up to that, we can certainly provide monthly reports.
So yeah, the report is very easy to generate, what we have for revenue each month. And again, you're right, there is it's hard not having my full staff to keep up with the collections, but it's gotten easier now that I've created a little internal system. So I think we'll be fine.
Any thoughts, just real quick from the whole group, anything in particular that you'd be interested in seeing as in terms of, as we continue to monitor revenues and spending? Any questions or points of particular concern? Okay.
I guess the only thing I would wonder is, given the fact that there's been some adjudication of rents and mortgages and what have you being in arrears, and those being uncollectible for some period of time, I haven't read anything that says that property taxes are governed under those. Are they, Barbara, or are they?
I haven't seen anything in declared to change the fact that we have first right, the
Okay,
taxes. So it's my feeling that the banks will still pay the taxes, because then that gives them the first right to foreclose on a property.
Sure.
That,
Okay.
that's, I can't speak for them, but if I was at a bank, that's what I would do.
You are a bank, Barbara. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Pat, one of the things we're going to be closely looking for, and we haven't seen it yet though, is if and when we get to a point where either people start not paying, people start making partial payments, and Barbara and Lisa will be able to see this quickly. That's when we start to get into, start to get a little concerned, when there's an interruption. And most likely there's going to be some type of interruption. The question is when and how much and what that impact is. The other thing, yeah.
I was going to say, my guess will be that'll be in the third and fourth quarter of collections. And I just wonder, obviously, Barbara, thank you for the clarity. The taxation is not covered under relief, which is a good thing, but that doesn't mean that the people that don't have the money will suddenly come up with it.
Right.
I just wonder if there won't be some process that's created to manage that later, but we won't worry about it now.
Yeah, and in general, if somebody can't pay their real estate bill all on time, I already have quite a few residents who are homeowners without mortgages who will pay me monthly.
Oh, okay.
So it's
Precedent exists.
something that we can
Precedent
do.
exists.
Yep,
Yeah, as long as precedent exists, we're in good shape. That's good.
it
Thanks.
does. The only question is whether the governor, the state will extend, not charging interest or fees past the June 30th date. That's the only thing I'm not sure of.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that.
Mhm.
Okay. The next item I'm going to turn over to Carly, which is a review and discussion of the draft 2020 budget book. And after we finish that, that'll be a good segue sort of into the ClearGov update. But I'm going to turn it over to Carly, who has put together the proposed draft budget book for this year. And as we've did last year, we had this available for town meeting. So take it away, Carly.
Thank you. So again, this document largely mirrors last year's document, obviously with updated figures and a new cover. I just had sent it, and that, apologies, just an hour ago. I thought I had sent it last week, I didn't. So if you want to review, my thought is once the buy board gives it the okay, I'd like to get it up online and promote it online as soon as we can. Just so people have time to absorb it before our maybe June 15th town meeting.
Okay. So I know some folks may have seen it, and again, it just went out. I think what would be helpful is, we think within the next week.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, if folks could take the next week until, say, next Friday at the latest, the 22nd, review it, and Carly will be the central point of contact. And we're open to if there are any edits, corrections, anything we missed, let's get that to Carly by next Friday, and then we will be in a position to move forward.
Is there a link to that that's available, Carly? Because I'd be happy to look at it.
There's no link because we haven't published it yet, but I did email it to you. I emailed you.
Oh, that'd be great. That's fine.
Yeah, I did that about 1 o'clock.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
So related to the budget book, the next item, the ClearGov update, and we are moving, forward with ClearGov, and we had a presentation for the buy board as well as discussions with the FinCom on this. We did a remote call meeting with ClearGov last week or the week before. I lose track of time, forgive me. But we had a meeting with them, and this meeting involved the upload of the town's information from Munis to begin to develop the draft platform. So the update right now is we're in the process of working with them to upload, get them all of our financial information so they can develop a draft prototype of the platform. Once that is developed, I would propose through the chair that once we have that, it'll be in draft form and it won't be obviously live or public yet, that we have a meeting of the buy board to review, and we'll have the individual from ClearGov we're working with. Let's review that prototype and discuss what folks like, don't like, etc., and begin to develop that. They are still willing to honor, obviously, the July 1st full implementation. Of course, we explained with the challenges of COVID-19 that might get, and they'll work with us, there could be a slight delay with that, but I think a standing item for our buy board is a periodic update with that. But what I envision before we launch anything, that the buy board has reviewed it and we're all on the same page before it's launched. So right now we're in the process of getting them all of the information the town has. The good news is a lot of it is through Munis. They've asked for some other things, and we'll let them put together sort of the first prototype, and then we will drive that process moving forward as to what we like, what we don't like, what, etc. And that will also include the budget requisition module, is putting the budget together. It will include the capital planning module, and it will also include the ability, so moving forward, the budget book and the annual town report can both be assembled through the ClearGov platform, if you will. So in other words, the budget book, which we did last year and this year, and it's an excellent product, but it'll be able to do it electronically, and we can print it, but we'll be able to do it through that platform, and the same with the town report. We'll have a traditional town report for town meeting like we do every year, and then we can move to the platform.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, so I just want to stress that we definitely, and we made this clear to them at the meeting, that the buy board will be the final arbiter, if you will, or the final green light, so they understand in building in their timeline a meeting or meetings with the buy board to get everybody's input. So we figured let's have them take the first pass and put together a prototype, and then we can get into the details. And we'll also, I think we should also get input, from the other town departments, and of course IT and what have you. And it'll remain a work in progress, but I think it's a good step in the right direction.
Good.
So as we usually do, I mean, before the scheduling of the next meeting, are there any other issues or concerns from members of the buy board? I'm looking on our screen. There are no members of the public on there right now for any public input. The meeting is public, but any other comments or questions? The benefits payroll manager, I see Kevin is on the call. Kevin, do you have anything? You might be muted, but.
Robert, I don't have anything. You've covered everything pretty well. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions from members of the buy board? Any other issues or so forth related to the finances or the COVID-19 and finances?
I would like to say that you guys have done a really thorough and good job of positioning us for this COVID-19 craziness. And you've explained the issues quite well, so I want to thank you for that.
Thanks,
Well,
Pat.
thank you, Pat. And I just want to say too, over the last 25 to 30 years, it's a true testament to the town Board of Selectmen, current, past, or whether they past and present, FinCom past and present, department heads past and present, that have had a conservative budgeting approach and have care about this town and have put together good institutional mechanisms, policies that we're in a strong position, because a lot of our sister towns, even in the Neshoba Valley, were in trouble financially before COVID-19. And I just want to stress, as sort of the head on the administration, we take this very serious. We do not have rose-colored glasses on. We're very concerned. We know that we're in this for the long haul, and we know that this will unfold as many economic impacts do. There's a delayed response. We're still in the, if you will, phase one of the emergency virus state. We're aware that there, you know, as you all are, there's 30 million Americans on unemployment right now. One of the things we didn't talk about, fortunately, we're not largely reliant, for example, on the local meals tax, but the local meals tax is a key piece of funding our OPEB contribution. We don't have this information yet, but what will the impact from this be to the local meals tax? The recreational marijuana facility has been closed since the governor's state of emergency. So that revenue stream is also impacted. So as we move forward with this monthly revenue report for the FinCom, the BOS, and the public, we will be looking at trends in what we see. We just don't have that information yet, but we know there'll be impacts.
If I can offer an analogy, as you guys know, I work often with the Department of Homeland Security.
Mm-hmm.
And the DHS has a catchphrase that they call best practices.
Mm-hmm.
Since they're not in a position to create regulations that can be adjudicated, they produce what are called best practices for a plethora of different things. And I would like to say that, in my opinion, the town of Ayer has a very strong set of best practices for its fiscal health. And that's a great thing.
Okay. So with that, what I'd like to propose as far as scheduling the next meeting, we can do it one of two ways. One, we can send out something to everybody. What I was looking at is I know things are subject to change, especially at this time, but potentially in 2 weeks, if Thursday at 2 works, and I don't want to get hung up, we can, but if we met in 2 weeks, I'm just proposing Thursday, May 28th at 2. In 2 weeks, if we met to touch base, the agenda would be in no particular order. The finalization of the budget book, everybody will have been able to look at it, and if there's any final, and we could take, you know, give Carly the final green light on that. We can give an update from the Board of Selectmen meeting on May 19th about, you know, because ultimately the board, as far as the plan for town meeting and so forth, and we can talk about that. We'll also be getting closer to a point where we'll maybe, who knows, but maybe get a clearer picture about potentially what's going to happen with the town meeting. Does that sound like a plan, like do a meeting in 2 weeks on the 28th?
Well, given that the 18th is the day that we're supposed to have the governor lifting the weight on us, and he's waiting until that date to tell us whether he's going to, I think the 28th is fine.
28th works for me.
So the 28th at 2,
Sure.
I'll send out something to everybody, of course, with the understanding if we have to move it or what have you, that's no big deal. I will
That's
have
fine.
something in the book.
Works for me.
Any final thoughts? And again, there's no one on from the public, so there are any public input, but there's nobody
Scott and I are from the public, aren't we, Scott?
But you're on the buy board.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're officially a part of this whole fiasco.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's good. Thank you. You guys are doing a great job. Just
Yeah.
keep it up. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate everything that everyone's doing. I know that it's, I'll steal Robert's word, unprecedented. And, having worked from home myself over the last couple of weeks, it's been a challenge. I know everyone has those challenges with being short-staffed, and also, there's also the pull of stresses at home in this time too. And I just appreciate everyone's efforts on keeping things running. And this goes across the entire town, not just this group here, because you look out and the services haven't seen any interruptions, and everyone's just done a really good job. So on my behalf, I thank everyone for all your hard efforts.
I agree with you, Scott. Well put.
thank you, Scott.
Thanks.
Okay, it's 2:55 PM. If there isn't anything else, is there a motion to adjourn for the record?
I move we adjourn today's meeting.
I second.
The motion's been made and seconded, and because it's public participation, just by roll call, Selectman Hood,
Aye.
Mr. Diamond,
Aye.
Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Ms. Tierney,
Aye.
Ms. Gabri,
Aye.
Ms. Antonellis,
Aye.
and I say aye. We are adjourned.